You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
I want to talk about news, don't want the drama. From no pretentious media Madonna. I found me a great ganja mama. Cannabis and coffee with Tamarijuana.
Good morning, folks. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me. I don't know whether I'm alive today or not. It's been a rough day yesterday. My hair is just a fucking mess today, too. I basically just kind of crawled out of bed, to be fair. Well, not really, but it's my rheumatoid arthritis has just been, I don't even know what to say. It's supposed to be working to be under control, but it's not. And she's got me taking all these things, and cannabis is not helping with the pain. I don't even know what to say anymore because it's just like out of control. So I was down all day yesterday. I'm surprised I even made it to do this today because I woke up this morning still and like I can't lift this arm like any more than that. Like you see the movement, like that's it. So I basically spent all day in bed yesterday, trying to feel better and the excruciating pain. Like it feels like you've torn a rotator or you broke your bone or you were injured. Like it feels like a severe injury, and it's not. So arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, any autoimmune arthritis, because there's several different kinds. There's psoriatic, there's inflammatory, there's rheumatoid, and they really don't have a pinpoint for mine, to be fair. Like they haven't said it's been inflammatory. Then it was psoriatic. Now she doesn't know again because it moves. But it's mainly in this area. Like, and it's like I have a trigger, like a sore spot, like just one, and it runs all down here, and all in here. I don't know. I have no answers. All I know is that I smoked a pile of cannabis yesterday and it helped with the nausea. I'll tell you that. It sure helps with the nausea because I got to take opioids and they're disgusting. And they don't really help either. Like when you're taking Dilaudid and it's not killing the pain, that's sad. And I don't really want, and it's not a high milligram, it's 2 milligrams. I don't want anything heavy. Like I don't want to be opioids. I don't even want them. But unfortunately, some days I have to tap. And it's usually after, several joints and several fucking gummies and several fucking, hits off a vape pen and several different attempts at doing other things before I have to tap. But I have to tap. And I tapped. So, as you see, I don't have a desk today. And I don't have Al to banter back and forth with. So, it's the usual, I don't know what to do. We'll go take a peek and see if there's anything pressing. But I do have a guest coming up next week. Is it 25th next week? I think it's the 25th. And I'm not going to say who it is quite yet because it's not a huge surprise. But she's got some amazing news. So I might as well say it's Cheryl and Haley Rose that are going to be on next week. Cheryl's been doing some amazing case study and doing some amazing research. And I'm not going to say much more now. I'm going to let her tell you the story. But it's some amazing news, which could absolutely, in my mind, and I don't know why anybody else hasn't seen this, remove cannabis off the CVSA. So there's that, I will say. Other than that, and of course, there's not much, cannabis news because with legalization, things are, like I said, they're not perfect, but people have access. And actually, I was talking to a friend last night, and she's out in Manitoba, and she was telling me what the scene is out like there. And the quality of cannabis isn't that great. Apparently, it's like, they're getting the old cannabis out in Manitoba. Um, but the bud tender she was speaking to also said, like people have access, whether it's, what it is, but people have access. And they do. Like, patients before didn't have a lot of access. And there's still lots of people that don't. There's towns that have opted out in cannabis retail too. And I know it, but the quality has gotten better. The prices have come down. And I'm not trying to blow the horn, but again, people aren't getting arrested, right? And that was the main thing for me more than anything, is because I'd been arrested for small amounts of cannabis and have a criminal record now for small amounts of cannabis. I can't get into the cannabis industry because of my previous record from cannabis. And law reform was a big thing. I didn't want to see people going to jail. And I did 6 months house arrest for 4 grams of cannabis. Yes, 4. 4. So I didn't want I don't want to see that ever happen to anybody else ever again. And with legalization now, that will never happen to anybody else ever again. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't remove my record. And it doesn't remove the records of thousands of other people that have been arrested for small amounts of cannabis. You can get your possessions removed, apparently, but people aren't getting them granted that easily either, even though the government said they were going to give them. Basically, anybody with any drug record, especially now in British Columbia, where you can possess small amounts of cocaine and methamphetamine and everything else too, anybody who had a small possession charge for that should be exonerated. Because likely, that, like myself, I was caught with a little bit of crack cocaine because I was a user, right? So, possession for any amount of any small amount of drugs off your criminal record should be gone. They really should be. Unless you were trafficking in huge amounts, smuggling, that kind of thing. Anything over, 28 grams, maybe 56, because that's only 2 ounces. But anybody that was arrested prior to legalization should have their records exonerated. It should be just wiped. And that's my opinion. And I don't know why they haven't, because in reality, like, who's benefiting from people having this? I can still travel. The only place I can't go is the United States. Not that I want to, because I really don't. But in hindsight, I would. I'd like to go to California and see what the grows and what the cannabis, and I'd like to go to Hemp Fest in the States. And I'd like to be able to do events in the States. I'd like to be able to go to Vegas. And anybody with a small drug possession isn't really a criminal. They might have been, and it's never been illegal to use drugs. It's been illegal to possess drugs. See, there's a difference in that too. Usage and possession. But you have to possess it to be able to use it. So, it's a encompassing. Anyway. The legislations in this country sometimes make me shake my head. Especially the Youth Offender Act. That's another one that's, oh wow. But now with cannabis legalization, you can get a cannabis marketing license, which means you yourself can package things in your name and not even grow it yourself. So things have come, forward a bit, but again, not everybody's happy with it. It's been almost going into our 6th year now, but again, access is a huge thing. And I can't say as I'm sad that I can drive my car to any one of the stores at any time after 9:30 they're closed, but during the day, and not have to worry about meeting somebody, being picked up, arrested. Quality, that was a big thing too in the Black. The quality, some of it was exemplary, and some of it was just straight up garbage, like seedy, gross, weedy, fucking black burning, fucking over fertilized garbage. Let's be honest. Like, how many bags of crap did you get? I remember buying a bag in the 80s. It was like $40 for 3.5 grams of cut off the plant, thrown in a bag. Here you go. You couldn't even smoke it. It wasn't cured. It wasn't dried. It was nothing. Right? Yeah. Remember those days, guys? I do. You could get hash. Hash, when I started smoking too, is all you could get was black hash. Very little flower because nobody was growing it because the laws against growing cannabis were exemplarily huge. Like back in the, people were going to jail for fucking 10 plants, right? 2 years less. For my husband went to jail for 2 years less a day for 70 plants, 75 plants. So less than 100 plants, right? And I mean, back when he was arrested back in the 90s, that was, oh my God. In fact, I think it was the biggest, grow that they had busted in southern Alberta, and it was in Vauxhall, Alberta. So, back in those days, that was a huge grow, 70 plants that were like this tall. I remember when we first moved to Coronation. So I got my license in 2012, and we had plants growing in Tabor in our house because I was licensed. And then when we moved to Coronation, I had to transfer my license. So in the interim between moving from Tabor to Coronation, we had set ourselves up. I had put my paperwork into Health Canada to transfer my address. We had gone to an event in Coronation with some friends. And within a week, we had the RCMP at our door because we were running an illicit drug house. Somebody had straight up routed us out from the RCMP because we had Taven at this party and everybody was drinking and smoking pot. Everybody was snorting lines. We were smoking weed and having a few beers. But, because we were talking openly about me being a cannabis patient and that we had plants growing in our house because we were with friends, didn't think anything of it. Yeah, social worker and 2 RCMP show up in our house within 2 weeks. Say they're coming to apprehend my child because I was running an illicit drug house. Not kidding you. They had every intentions that day of taking Taven. Let's put it that way. I showed up at the door with my pink paperwork, showed the RCMP that, plus my application for transfer, which was sitting right by the door too, because I'm smarter than the average cat. I'm never going to take a risk with my son, ever. Showed the paperwork to the police. The police told the social worker there was fuck all she could do. I was legal. The child was, safe. In the interim, all they wanted to see was the garden, which was 7 plants downstairs that were all this big. We had just had friends bring us up a few clones because we had just moved. And they didn't look in the fridge for food. They didn't check to see if Taven had diapers, if his room was clean, nothing. Okay? The social worker that wanted to come and apprehend my son didn't look to see if he had the basic necessities of life, but was convinced that he was in harm's way because we smoked cannabis. Right? This is in Coronation, Alberta, in between when we were on the farm. Anyways, that social worker drove away that day with the RCMP behind her. My son, who was eating his omelets in a high chair in the front of the TV in the living room that she never even looked at. She didn't even look at him. Not kidding you. Didn't even look at him. Anyways, they left, and I got what she wanted was the cannabis locked in a room in a filing cabinet with a window left open with a lock on the door of my bedroom. So we changed the bedroom knob and put a lock on the door. We opened the bedroom window and we sent her pictures. Because at this point in time, I think this was back in 2010, 2011, somewhere in that area. And it was cold. And we lived out in the middle of nowhere, right? We were on the farm. So we were like 35 kilometers from Coronation. And she had to come in from Strathmore. It was Strathmore, I think she had, not Strathmore, Stettler. She had to come in from Stettler. So her drive from Stettler to me was like a good hour and a half drive, right? And it was cold. It was minus 50 and the winds were blowing. And the roads weren't great. So in the interim, I ended up sending her pictures, okay? Pictures of what we had done. And I got a letter in the mail 2 weeks later saying that my file had been closed. So we want to talk run-ins with people, RCMP, bullshit because of the plant. We've been there. We've been arrested. We have been thrown in the backs of paddy wagons. I've spent, the day I got busted with that 4 grams, I was wearing my jammy bottoms, my medicinal fucking shirt, and a pair of slippers. And I spent 5.5 hours in jail in downtown, in Tabor, because of 4 grams of cannabis. But I had an ounce that somebody had sent me, and I'm the only person in the history of ever walked out of the Tabor police station with an ounce of pot, minus the quarter of a gram they kept for analysis. I have the paperwork for that somewhere too. Still somewhere. Maybe not. We've moved. So I don't know if I have the paperwork for any of this shit. But, and I can have all this like pardoned, except for one thing. When I was arrested in Tabor, I did an article in Maclean's magazine. So it's in print. So it doesn't matter if I got a pardon, seal, whatever the fuck they call it now, which is a waste of fucking my time and yours, because they could unseal it anytime suspended. It's suspended. It's not wiped. It's suspended, thanks to the fucking conservatives changing all that legislation in the prior government, right? So our criminal records are no longer gone. They used to be able to be wiped off CSIS. Now they're suspended. So they're still sitting there and anybody has access to it. It's whether they decide to use it against you or not. And that's a fact. So you pay all this money to get a pardon from Pardon, and Pardons Canada is a scam, straight up. They're just an agency that they're not Pardons Canada. Pardons Canada is an agency that does the paperwork to go to the Solicitor General, who actually is the agency that takes care of your pardons. So you can do it yourself. You have to get fingerprints done and all this other stupid stuff done, but they do the same thing, and you pay the RCMP the same amount of money for Pardons Canada to do it. The only difference is Pardon Canada just fills out your paperwork for you and then charges you $3,000. Yeah, they do. Because it doesn't cost you that much. The Canadian government doesn't charge you anything for a pardon. They don't. You're paying for what you're paying for is your criminal record check, your fingerprints to be done. You're not paying anything. It's kind of like when people say, "Oh, I need, to get my status from, for for First Nations." It doesn't cost you shit. You might need the money to get a birth certificate or a death certificate or that kind of thing to prove who you are. But the actual cost of getting that by the Canadian government is fucking zero. Even to get your Health Canada permit for your cannabis grow license, the doctor might charge you. Yeah. But you send that paperwork to Health Canada for your grow, and they aren't charging you shit. There's no administration fees at all. So for all these other programs that, you're going to be making money, like a license for a licensed production grow, and they're charging you for that administration fee. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be making millions of dollars off that fucking license. But for a patient who's going to get a license to grow their few little plants at home, there's no fee, because ultimately they don't look at you like you're going to be making a profit off that. So if you're making profits off shit, you should pay fucking taxes and administration fees. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be making more money than that fucking fee cost you. And if you want the government to not run, then you don't want hospitals, and you don't want policing, and you don't want fire, and you don't want roads, and you don't want anything. You just want the Wild West. You just want to be able to, fucking do whatever you want and not have any repercussions or any consequences. So I'm sorry whether you like having to pay it or not having to pay it. We have to pay it, so we have nice things. And Canadians, we have nice things. We have the opportunity to have legal cannabis. We have the opportunity to be able to grow our cannabis at home under the privacy of our homes. Even if it's legal, it's only 4. But if you're a patient, you can apply for that license. And again, it's fucking free. The license itself from Health Canada costs you nothing. It's the licensing or the doctor or whoever agency that's playing their little fucking I'll help you fill out your paperwork, which you can do yourself. And if your doctor will sign the paperwork themselves and charge you a little $30 fee like mine did. So I paid the doctor $30. I filled out the paperwork myself. I sent it to Health Canada. It cost me as much as what a registered letter costs or whatever to, in an envelope to make sure they got it so you get a signature. And 6 weeks later, I had a license. And and the Canadian government didn't charge me anything. Even when it was a conservative government, fuckers, it didn't cost me anything. So when you want to blame blah, 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 it didn't cost me nothing. Now the first license cost me fucking $5,000 because I had to fly to Toronto. I had to drive to Cohill. I had to pay the doctor $100 cash. I had to pay for hotel rooms. Yeah. So that first license in 2012 cost me $5,000. But it wasn't even, and at the end of the day, Health Canada still didn't charge me anything. The doctor did. In fact, back then, some doctors were charging, and some agencies were charging up to $5,000 for licensing. But again, Health Canada wasn't charging anything. The government, for that license or that exemption, or whatever you want to call it, dog tag, to protect you from many consequences for growing cannabis for your medical need. And I just love how we say, the government's taking all our money. Yep, because you're entitled and you want to be able to drive on roads. And you're entitled and you want to be able to have national parks. And you're entitled and you want to be able to fucking have cops and fire and schools, and yeah, that's what your money goes to. Cannabis legalization, alcohol, tobacco regulations. I could go on and on and on what your tax money is used for. But again, that's why I keep asking, where's the money for the cannabis? But then I'm seeing that, friends are being, dispensaries are being taken down, and that's where your cannabis taxes are going. Law enforcement. Which is not what, at the end of the day, cannabis taxation should be going to. I like how Denver does it. They built new parks, they built new schools, they give it to the municipalities to do good for the people. And that's at the end of the day what I would love to see happen with our cannabis taxes, is go back to where we need it. Education, healthcare, housing, all the things that people are screaming about that need help. But but you still don't want to pay taxes. And yes, at the end of World War II, blah, 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 blah. But you still want all the services. You want OSDP, you want AISH, you want PWD, you want CPP, you want doctors and nurses and all these things, these nice things, but you don't want to pay taxes. Okay, so where's the money going to come from? Where would the money come from for all this stuff if we didn't pay taxes? If we kept more money in our pockets, if we axe a tax, where's the money going to come from? Bitcoin? Cryptocurrency? An apple farm? Should be coming from cannabis. But apparently cannabis sales have gone down. Yep. Apparently people aren't smoking as much because inflation or corporate greed. That's what it is. It's corporate greed. Corporate greed, which causes inflation. And the less we spend, the inflation goes down. The minute we start spending more money, inflation goes back up again because the corporate greed gets, we can make more money. So let's exuberate the cost of that. And who's getting rich? The corporate. See, late stage capitalism is where we're at. And cannabis is fucking feeding into that because it became a grassroots to a corporate. And now the taxation is going to feed law enforcement to keep everybody fucking controlled by using their legal cannabis too. And again, this is just, how it all kind of flies down. But it's all gone corporate. So you got corporate weed, corporate booze, corporate tobacco. And none of it's owned by our government. The government regulates it, right? Which means it's supposed to keep it safe for public health and safety. That's what regulations are meant for. Public health and safety. Mainly, right? And that's why cannabis was also legalized, for public health and safety, so that it wasn't being laced and it was being tested and we could get some research, maybe get somewhere with it. But here's a newsflash, there ain't no research being fucking done, except by small micros that might be, pushing forward on some level. But there's not a lot of research being done. Oh, and another thing I found out, our local LP, which I thought was being shut down, isn't being shut down. They're just selling to the international market, to like Israel and Germany, because the taxation to sell in Canada is too high. So they're growing here, they're producing here, and they're exporting there. Now, how the fuck does that happen? So that's what's happening too with a lot of this corporate because they're too worried about paying taxation. The 1%, okay? We're talking about the 1%ers that got into these big, huge LPs because they're the rich ones, right? They're the ones that can actually produce it. And they're exporting it. Yeah, you're right. Hi, guys. How you doing, Pierre Margaret? Nice. Thanks for coming in. But yeah, that's where it's going. And the guy stood there right in front of me and said, oh, we're not producing for domestic market anymore. We don't want to pay the Canadian taxes. So it's going basically, that's where it's going. And he told me Israel and Germany. But if I was to have a bag of weed in my suitcase and I flew to Germany, wouldn't that be me importing, exporting, and it would be okay? It's okay for them too. You see what I'm saying? The hypocrisy in that too. Like, unbelievable. And we're just exporting it. The fuck? And I know for a fact Tweed and Tilray have actually set up grows in Australia because Australia now has a legal market. And it was cheaper for them, minus the cannabis taxes in Canada, to actually set up in Australia and grow in Australia for their patients. So our market that we've fought to have is now saying, fuck you, Canada, and our patients in our market and going elsewhere. Isn't that something? Unbelievable. Yeah. That's what we get for opening the doors. It's like, bye. We're not even going to sell our product here. We're going to sell it to Germans. You guys just don't count. What? Oh, yes, yeah. Couldn't believe it. Anyways, I'm going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors who are watching right now, which is Limestone City Hydroponics, Nutrients, and they are in Peterborough, I think. I'm sorry. I'm just like, eh. And we have several other great sponsors that help our network as well, and I'd like to thank them. So we're going to run a quick commercial and thank our sponsors. I'll be right back. Piper.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, we're back. And again, thank you to all our sponsors. And it's Kingston, Ontario. Sorry, guys. I knew that I was going to say Kingston first, but I've never actually been to Kingston. I've been to Peterborough, and I've been to Markham and Toronto, and I've also been to Ottawa. But haven't been out east for, God, I hate to say this, almost 10 years. And intentions have always been I want to go back, and I just haven't been able to get there. But I'm sorry, I made a huge mistake by saying Peterborough. So it's Kingston, Ontario, Limestone Hydroponics, and these guys are great. Again, too, I want to talk about mandatory minimums. That's another thing that people have been screaming about with all these new laws that are going into effect with BLC 63. With people are calling it censorship online, and I don't believe it's censorship online. I believe it's public health and safety, right? And safety, and for our kids, people are bullied online, and I see it on a daily basis. Like, I know it's not really related, but in our cannabis industry or community too, there's been a lot of bullying. A lot of people that, and debating and is good, right? And having different opinions are good. And never, don't get me wrong, like I never think that we should ever not be able to express ourselves freely, right? I believe in freedom of expression. But again, I also don't believe in hate speech. So I think this I love to visit you guys. But again, I think that this bill C-36 isn't a bad thing. But again, because within our industry and there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of misogyny, and I don't even like to say that, but there's misogyny. There still is, and it's kind of disgusting. And I'm probably too blunt, but I don't care. It's there, right? The bullying, the misogyny, the bigotry, the racism, especially with COVID, you really saw in our community character, and you really saw who was who. And I'm just going to leave that there. So you want to go back to mandatory minimums, and that's what I'm bringing up to this next little bit, because mandatory minimums were taken out by the Liberal government, and it's a good thing, because back, if I remember correctly, there was mandatory minimums for cannabis, right? Now I gotta share this screen, so we're gonna bring it up. There we are. So this is something else. I love you guys too. It was disgusting, because I think it was mandatory minimum jail sentencing was going to be 14 years for cannabis, but yet mandatory minimums for anything else was 7. Okay, so this is still in effect for a lot of some things, right? But reintroduced former C-22, which was the first 100 days of mandate in 2021. David Lametti, Minister of Justice, said that they were going to take this out, right? So this is in the first 100 days of the Liberals being in office, right? They would amend the criminal code and the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act. One objective of this bill was to repeal mandatory minimum penalties for certain offenses, including drug offenses, which have not deterred crime and have resulted in over-incarceration of Indigenous as well as Black Canadians and members of marginalized communities. So to go back, the Conservative government had put mandatory minimums in for all drug offenses, right? So it didn't matter. You were going to jail. And they were going to fill them up, and they were going to build private prisons, and this was going to be the new money-making fucking industry in Canada. And people were in an uproar, because mandatory minimums in the States, you've seen incarceration, people going to jail for several years, and it does nothing for them. There's no rehabilitation. They get out, they reoffend, they go back, they reoffend, they go back. There's no rehabilitation. So the charter was then changed or not charter, legislation was then changed so that there is absolutely, like, there's no mandatory minimums for drug offenses in Canada anymore. Now, the other side of the aisle would like to bring this back because this was their baby, right? Hard against crime, tough on crime, mandatory minimums. Again, it's another industry that they think they can bring forward, another corporate industry. Now, if we go back in time to Alberta, when they were trying to push this forward, there was Wild Rose connections with all the private food that's brought into the jails, all the private laundry that's done, all the private stuff that they've taken away, because at one time that was all done within the jail system by the inmates. Well, the provincial jails have now farmed all this stuff out. Again, provincial jurisdictions too. This was for federal, right? Because of the mandatory minimum being legislation, it's a federal legislation that goes across the board. Provinces don't have this either because the mandatory minimum is a federal. There's summary and indictable convictions, right? No matter what, summary is usually under 2 years less, and that your indictables are when you would go to a federal penitentiary, and there's a difference. There's just a huge difference. Anyways, mandatory minimums were taken out. But again, if this other, side of the aisle gets back, we could really be in trouble. Because this would be something that they would probably look at bringing back into effect with their hard on crime BS and anything. So more than 210 challenges to the constitutional MMPs, subjected to many charter challenges, court cases across Canada. So it was struck down by the Supreme Court. Mandatory minimums were struck down by the Supreme Court of Canada. So Bill C-5 mandatory minimum penalties were repealed. And I can't say that's a bad thing. But like I said, again, if the other side of the aisle gets in, again, this could be something we're looking at again, right? And that was for all. They don't like anything that has come forward with any of the drug policies. In British Columbia, with decriminalizing small amounts of all drugs, people are still dying. I'm not going to lie. People are still dying, but not in the numbers that they were dying before. But people are more apt to go and get drugs tested. The unfortunate thing is that 90% of the communities in Canada don't have drug testing ability. Like Dana's got the 2 drug testing, in Vancouver, and we've got Anchors here that absolutely does have the right machine that can test your drugs. But that's 2 communities in all of British Columbia. And I'm in Cranbrook, BC. So we're out in the middle of bloody nowhere too. Like we're in the southeast corner. And we've got a small community. It's 20,000 people. Vancouver, you need 2. And that's not even enough for that size of that city. Like there should be drug testing sites on every other corner. Like there is, like you go into a cannabis store, there should be a drug testing right there. You want to take drugs other than cannabis? That's whatever. That's you. You go right ahead. It doesn't harm me. What you do, it doesn't harm me. You can do whatever you want. But I believe they should have drug testing right there at these dispensaries for any type of drug. There's going to be strips or something. You know what I mean? Like, or at a hydroponic store, anywhere. Like I carry Narcan with me. I should have a drug testing kit with too. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, it should be so accessible so that people aren't dying. And we had an incident apparently here where somebody bought some cannabis, not at a store, and it was laced with fentanyl, and a young person got it. So as much as I hate advocating legal stores, be careful out there. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, just be careful out there. I'm nibbling on these wonderful Indian treats we have at my store. You shouldn't be doing that, but again, be careful, because drug testing is something that's, even if you're taking any psilocybin, anything, be careful, because not everybody's nice, right? Maybe it's an accident. Maybe it's on the. I don't know. I don't know what purpose anybody would have with lacing anything that wasn't what somebody wanted would be, but apparently people do it, and that's kind of disturbing. But be careful out there. Let's see, what else do I have on my agenda today? Not a lot, to be fair. I'm just starting, like I said, need to just feel better, get through this, and get my ass moving today. But I need to get some seeds sprouted too. Is anybody out there sprouting? Oh, That's what I was going to mention. Now that my brain's thinking again, micro greens. I was seeing that. Hi. Yeah, it is scary times, isn't it? But I was seeing the microgreens on Limestone City Hydroponics ad, and Al did some, so it inspired me to start some sprouts too. And I don't have them in a little nice little tray. I've got a herb garden, so I just did all that kind of in a spread in my little herb garden. So I got little sprouts growing too. Hey Jamie, how's it going? But yeah, like it's just like it is scary times. Hey, like everything seems to be changing so quickly, and it's not even like politics. Like I said, I'm talking about mandatory minimums, and as things change, and it's leaning farther to the right, and they're talking about rights and freedoms, but all I see is like things going back to being not so right. And like I said, bringing up the mandatory minimums, that's something that Polyev was very in wanting. And now they're talking about tough on crime again. Is this something else that they're going to bring up? Again, it's a big industry, private jails, privatization. We all know that that's this mindset of that person, right? And we want to keep thinking that mandatory minimums, we fought so hard against them and they took them out. And if they bring that back in, how's it going to affect, like I said, if they bring it back in mandatory minimums for drugs, right? Where we've decriminalized, where we've legalized all these things, what is their mandatory minimum? Are they gonna, hey, if it's for rapists, yeah, right on, let's up that. If it's for harassment and unaliving people, and we're gonna change all that stuff, yeah, let's do that. Gun control, okay. You want to put some more laws on gun control? All right. But if you want to do it for drugs and cannabis and stuff, again, no way, man, no. There's no way that's gonna fly. And what else are they gonna pull back on? And that's a concern. It's a huge concern because we're dealing with people where we've come so far, right? When it comes to harm reduction, when it's come to legalization, when it's come to access, when it's come to even looking at psilocybin, and there's more and more studies being done on psilocybin and wellness and all these things, and they want to talk about natural health medicine, and they want to talk about all these things, yet they would criminalize all these things that are healthy. Because you remember, with all this nutrition and all these, they wanted to stop us from growing garlic and all these things and the natural health medicines. That was them. Okay. And now they're talking about it. So they're backtracking, backpedaling on natural medicines, backpedaling on their thoughts, hypocrisy on all levels, even when it comes to it. But mandatory minimums is something they're not going to. Yes, he did. But that, again, he's in British Columbia, right? I'm in British Columbia too. It's a little different in each province because a lot of this stuff is provincial. But mandatory minimums and those legislations for federal law are not, right? So that's something that we have to, but again, provincial, you bet. I'm really happy. In fact, we had Dana on the Pace show last Wednesday. We got him in the last little bit, right? To talk about how, they went to court and they fought and they got their business license back. So that's a step forward. But again, there's a lot of research happening with psilocybin too. There's been a lot of documentaries put out. CNN, has been looking into it. There's actual places in Jamaica where you can go that are actually safe, right? It's legal in Jamaica. Mushrooms are totally legal. There's retreats and places you can go to do meditation and learn and actually have somebody sit with you and go through all your emotional trauma and that type of thing in these retreats. They're super expensive. I think the one in Jamaica was like $30,000 Canadian. It's ridiculously expensive. There are other places too, I believe in California, because they are doing a lot of research with brain health. And I think that's something that we need to look at too. And we talk about women's health, which is something that we really need to look at too, as far as I'm going into that menopause stages and, as I'm getting older. And I've already been through all, the childbirth and all these years. But as you get older as a woman, you need, there's no research for that, for our hearts and all kinds of things. But our brain health is something that they've never really looked at either. I mean, there's, more openness with, mental health issues, and there's a lot more resources for mental health. But again, brain health, right, is something we really need to look into too. And I think that natural medicines for some things are good. Like, I don't want to say go and grab, because I had to tap. Okay, I have to take some pharma. But again, I'm looking along the lines of what's going to help me naturally. And my doctor, my GP is really good. Like menopause, you try primrose oil first. because she knows I'm not going to take gabapentin, right? There's just no way in how she's going to be able to convince me ever to take gabapentin. I'm basically taking the medication that I have to make it so that I can get up and move. Other than that, I ain't taking anything to up. Like, I'm really supposed to take hydrochloroquine too, and I don't, because I just refuse to take anything more than I really need to, right? Cannabis, and that's, nicotine, caffeine. Those are my vices. And that's it. So, I mean, those are my choices, right? And anybody else has their choices. You're allowed to do that. That's what freedom is in Canada, and we're allowed to have those choices. But again, hate speech isn't a choice. And bullying shouldn't be a choice. Bullying should be something that we should never have to experience. And I mean, sometimes, like I said, I can be pretty blunt. I'm not trying to be, harsh on anybody. But again, like, the truth of the matter and truth and fact. And I can't help it if I'm just telling it how it is. I don't mean to be, rude. I've got a filter. I absolutely do. It's not with certain people. Anyways, that's, but again, like, we have like the options of using cannabis. We have the options of using, and of course, psilocybin being absolutely legalized here in the next little bit too, or regulated, or, accessible too, so that people can absolutely, try it once they get through all these things. Now, again, I'm going to have Cheryl and Haley Rose on my next show, which is the 25th of March, I believe. I should probably check my calendar and make sure I'm good. Somebody must be walking by the house. Gotta get a text message from her. Oh my God, these people. Stop barking! I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. I was looking at the date. Today is the 11th. So next week should be the 25th, I think. No, next week's the 18th. So the 25th. So not next week, but the week after, I'm going to have Cheryl and Haley Rose on. And we are going to be talking about sprouts. And we're going to be talking about juicing. And we're going to be talking about the medical benefits for all those things and the research that's gone into it and what the outcomes have been. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to say anything more. I'm just going to let y'all swill on that for 2 weeks because it's some really amazing news. And it's all like, yeah, it's good. So 25th of March, mark that on your calendar, so that you'll be able to join us that day. That'll be noon, Mountain Standard Time, of course, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, and that'll be Cheryl and Haley Rose. And Haley will be on because Haley's doing really amazing. I will say that. She's doing awesome. In fact, I believe she's attending art school right now. Right? So if you met her when she was 14, I think, 15 when I first met her. She's now 30. She is. She's 30. Can you believe that? Right? And she's not a kid anymore, obviously, but she has come a long way. And the doctors basically had shut her off and said, yeah, no, there's nothing more we can do. So her mom fought for her life too. And I know many others that have done the same thing and fought for the lives of their children, or still are fighting for the lives of their children with cannabis medicine. And that would be the Joneses as well with Sophie. And I want to send them a huge, I hope that she's feeling better. I know that she wasn't feeling that great the last couple of days. I've been seeing that. So if you want to make a donation to anybody, there's little Sophie Jones out in Nova Scotia is always looking for bottles or anything that you can have, help with, because their CBD medicine is not covered by anything, and she needs it. And her folks are working hard, and they've got 2 other little kids. So yeah, that'd be Sophie Jones, and that's her mom's Kaylee and Nick Jones out in Nova Scotia. Say hi to them, and like I said, they're always in need of anything, any help, and they have tinctures that they use for her, and it's been very beneficial for her. There's other kids, that are all across this country that are parents that are secretly still using it because of the fact that there are still laws. why it should be really important that cannabis is taken off the CVSA and removed from the CVSA completely, because it can be used as a food, and it should be classified as a food, and it should be classified under agriculture and not drugs and controlled substances. And that's where I'm at with that. It should be not under the Controlled and Drug Substance Act. So, if anybody's want to, get their fingers going, emails to, all the ministries and all the places that they should go, MPs and MLAs, and, asking them where the plant medicine is, or plant taxes. I'm really not on my game today. Like I said, I spent all day yesterday in bed because of this fucking shoulder. This one's fine. This one, no, not so good. And yeah, I'm not on my A game today. But hey, I made it. I got up on time, got this thing going on time. I didn't send out a message saying, hey man, I feel like crap and I'm not going on the air today. Show must go on. Last week I wasn't feeling either. Wasn't doing well last week either. It seems like my day off, I just crash. I work 6 days a week, and on the 7th day she crashes. And that's just the way it seems to be going. But like I said, again, this arm, yeah, this arm, no, it's just no, not working. My hip yesterday too. Like I said, I was so grateful. Walmart, I didn't know Walmart delivers within 2 hours in town. So that was a good thing to find out. Got a heating pad, so I'm all set up now. So when on my day off, I can just crawl back in and just die. And I'll go do my 6 hours tonight, and I will crawl back in and die. I will. Because I haven't figured out how I'm going to lift my arm to have a shower to wash my hair yet. And that dog barking, holy moly, I'm gonna have to do something about that. Hang on, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a rebel yell is what I'm gonna do. There. I wasn't supposed to do that either. I was just supposed to mute the mic. It took me right out. Like, what in the heck was that? Anyways, I think I will roll one for the last 5 minutes of the show and spark one up and have a puff with everybody and hope that you all have a good day. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening to me rant about mandatory minimums and all the stuff that, I think that, should be changed with like in reality, like the Cannabis Act, they rolled patients into that. They did. And that was something they did back when they first got it. And, there is medical licensing now. You can actually get a medical license to distribute. We've been through that. I looked at the papers. I brought all that up on the screen a couple of shows ago. So I'm not sure what all that entails. I haven't really looked into it because I know I wouldn't be able to do it. I know it's just something that I'm going to look at, be something that I've always wanted to do, and not be able to because of some barrier. And that's the thing. They keep throwing barriers up. Like, it's kind of like my dream of being, in politics. It will never happen because of my background, because I have a criminal record for cannabis, because I have a criminal record, period, because I'm married to a guy that's got a criminal record. I've got a kid that had an addiction problem. Like, there's so many things. And these things shouldn't be barriers, but they are, right? So, you just got to be the squeaky wheel in the background then, and keep them accountable and keep poking at them and keep trying to change things from the outside of their realm, but keep them accountable. And that's why you have to keep asking them, where's the cannabis taxation money going to? And I can't even say that on some mediums. Like, if I go on TikTok, I can't say the word cannabis. They'll shut me down. So I have to say plant money. And that's why, plant money, right? I know you are. That's one thing I do know. And, but again, you have to keep asking your MPs, not your MPs, sorry, your MLAs, where's the plant money going in your province? Because it's going to the province. The stores send it directly to the province. That percentage of PST and whatever else that they're paying goes to, the government. And that's the way it is. So again, like, where's the money going? And that's what I keep asking. Where's the cannabis money? Oh, law enforcement. No, that's not where I want it to go. I don't want to go into law enforcement. Cannabis recovery and addiction. I know, right? I did too. I lost an account too because I showed my plants. It was down in like 20 minutes. And like anytime there's a few videos, like I got a few strikes against me for being a bully. Apparently, because I, just say like what I think, and then all of a sudden apparently I'm, being a bully. So I guess I should pull my horns back in, tuck my tail in sometimes, but when it comes to who, I can't. There's a couple of them that I just can't, like him and Michael Cooper. Whoo, bomba clat. I'm losing it because there's just those misogynistic. Yeah, just can't help myself. So I get shut down. They are, right? Oh God. I think I put the phone down. I think I had one video I put up, and then I put my phone down. I checked 2 minutes later, it was gone. I think that's where I called PP a moron or something. So I can say whatever I want here. We have explicit, and this is our network. But I shouldn't be saying too much because I try and stay off politics. This is cannabis. But it all relates, right? Cannabis is related to politics when it comes to the regulations and legislations. And we have to be careful because I'm not sure, like, how, like, they're already, like I said, they're already talking, like, conservative premiers are already, screwing shit up. The only reason why Alberta has such a great cannabis market is because it's privatized because it went in with their liquor. And they'd already privatized liquor sales. So any province that has privatization for the liquor sales, which is no one but Alberta, I believe every other province's liquor control is still controlled by the province. They've never privatized their stores. That's why Alberta has got like 100 million fucking pot stores. And the government doesn't care because they're having to pay the taxes. And they're saying there is no tax, there's no PST. Bullshit. It's just hidden. And I know that because I paid more money for cannabis in Alberta than I did here. And I paid $19.99 for the same package of 3 joints plus the taxes. It's $23.99. Went out to Lethbridge, and that pack of 3 joints was $23.99 plus GST. So you tell me that I'm saving money by going next door to Alberta. I'm not. My cigarettes were $24.95. They're $24.95 here. The only thing I saved money on in Alberta was fuel. And fuel out here just jumped to like $1.70 a fucking liter. So, but I don't know what it is in Alberta right now, but it was $1.36 out there. It was $1.56 out here. You had 7% tar, $1.36, it's $1.56. Or they're $1.36. You had 7 or 8% of that, it's $1.56. So whatever it is. But yeah, it's bullshit. All of it. Cannabis taxes should not be going to law enforcement. That's for fucking sure. All right. Last spark of the day. It's the last minute. I'm going to say, hasta la vista, babies. And you all have a good day today. Peace. Pray for the people of the world for peace. Love y'all. See you next week. Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, bakes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.